Well, hello there. And welcome to dinner on Saturday. Once again, Saturday. At an odd time. Let me just adjust. But welcome. So I'm continuing to clear stuff out, but this time I'm also using new things. And returning to an old project as well. Multiple things. Part 1. It's a little drippy, so it's been in the sink, but a lobster tail. Oop, still a little drippy. Which has been in my freezer for quite some time. But, as I always say, shellfish in shell freezes extremely well. So we're showing the tiniest bit of freezer burn around the tips here, but otherwise we're in excellent shape. It thawed out really well too. So that's the main event. I've only got one. And I've been thinking about what to do with it. It's been in there for a while, and I look at it, and I wonder what I'm going to do with it. So I've been thinking about what to do with it for a while. And we've settled on lobster ravioli. Because lobster's one of those things that I'm afraid of misusing. Not because it's super expensive, but because I've had bad lobster. And it's actually really quite easy to mess it up. So I want to be delicate with it, and I don't want to drown it out. I think that there are a lot of recipes out there that use lobster recklessly and just ruin it. Now, this isn't the highest quality thing in the world, so I'm not really going to be throwing it in a fresh lobster thing, but dicing it up for a lobster ravioli, mincing it up for lobster ravioli is perfect. Where's my paper towel? We're also going to make our own fresh pasta, because we're making ravioli. It has to get stuffed in something. I'm just going to wipe the board down here. It has to be stuffed in something. Which means we need to make fresh pasta, which means we need to get that started, because fresh pasta has to rest. And we are going to use a scales to get us started. Grams. So we're going to do what we've done before and build our pasta right here on the board. But I want a measured amount. I'm not going to eyeball that. No, that's exactly what I was going for. I'm going for 100 grams, 112.5 grams. It's a 1 1/8. Because I do have a general idea of where I want to head with the whole thing. I've got a reference recipe up for homemade lobster ravioli, but I'm cutting it down quite a lot. It's an enormous recipe. So things are going to be in slightly awkward amounts. We're only putting 1 egg in this. We're going to make one egg's worth. 1 lobster tail's worth is what we're actually rolling around. Oop. Floured my egg really badly there. So the fun. I know this I messed up last time, and I'm going to do it properly now. Because you want a little bit of salt in your pasta. My salt is a pretty coarse grained stuff, and I didn't grind it into a fine powder before I added it last time. We had little obvious pieces that kind of broke up the consistency. And since we're stuffing it this time, I can't afford to have that. So we are going to grind it into an absolute powder. To the point where it's sticking to the mortar. And add that so that we can get our salt in without having any weird little granules breaking up our sheets of pasta, because it needs structural integrity. We should probably run a quick whisk to get that salt distributed and incorporated as well. Okay. And then we dump our flour out onto our board. Make a little volcano out of it. Take your egg. We're actually going to use the bowl there as a scraps bowl. Take your egg right into your volcano. Pop your yolk. Stir that around to get it all scrambled together. And then you want to kind of incorporate flour into it, but don't do what I just did there and break the side of your volcano. Just kind of push flour into it and combine it. Oop. You're breaking the sides of our volcano. But I got it before it went everywhere, which is what you need to do. You just don't want the egg to run everywhere before it has been thickened sufficiently by the flour. And then we just want to combine and combine until it starts to form a single mass. And it should start sticking to itself more than it sticks to me. It's rather humid today, so I'm not sure how we're going to do in terms of pasta. It's always dependent on ambient humidity. In both directions. Dry can make your pasta dry out. I get some of these bits off the sides of my fingers so that when I go in, they okay. This is a pretty small quantity I'm making, honestly. And I might need just a tiny bit of wet on my hands to help it get started, because I think our egg might have been on the small side for the amount of flour. But I'm gonna go ahead and knead it for a bit before I start adding more liquid to it. Nobody's said anything yet. In the old chatteroo. So you can get even the parts that don't look like they're going to stick. They'll stick once it gets going. Doing a small quantity of pasta is difficult. I am going to add a little bit of water. I think we're too dry for it to incorporate easily. It is sticking, but it's having a little bit of a hard time. I was gonna make sure I'm not muted. So I'm just literally running water on my hands, shaking the drips off, and then coming back, and that'll be plenty of water to get this working. You don't want to pour water into it, just the tiny bit that sticks to your hands. It's probably too much, honestly, but this dough is having a little bit of a hard time, so I'm keep losing bits. It's making a dough is more of an art than a science. It's affected by so many random environmental variables. Okay, we do need to knead it for a while as well, so we have some time to get it to really incorporate, but it still feels a little bit too dry. It should be less crumbly than that at this stage. See, that was too much. The difference between not enough and too much is so slim when you're working with a ball of dough that's this small. I'm going to use it to scrape up all the little loose bits. That'll help it. But now it's sort of partially slimy on the outside. I need to But it's sticking to itself a lot better, and that's what it needs to do. It is sticking to me a little bit too much. Let me, I hate to put more flour in at this point and screw it up, but I think it might need a tiny dusting of flour. I'm gonna just rinse the schleam off my hands, dry my hands very thoroughly, and add just the tiniest dusting of flour to try to balance this out, because it's slippery, which makes it really hard to knead, which means it's hard to incorporate the unevenness of it having a slightly wet exterior. So we're just we're just barely dusting it to try to get rid of that slipperiness so that it can be kneaded. Okay. That's much better. Okay. Now that it's sticking to itself, not crumbling and not slippery, I can just knead it and knead it and knead it for a while until it starts to develop a smoothness. And there's a bunch of descriptors people use for what properly kneaded pasta dough feels like. And I think that the best one is the skin on your arm. I think it takes on a very skin-like property when it's correct. But yeah, we're kind of stuck for a moment, just kneading away. Gonna have to. I'm not as good with my left hand, but I don't do this often enough to be able to just do it continually with my right hand without at least a little break. Okay. There's a few little bits stuck on my table here that we should scrape up. It's firm enough that it can kind of scrape up things. It's developing a sort of nice smooth feel to it, although there are still some cracks in it I'm a little bit worried about. We will hope that those correct, otherwise it might need just a drop of water. And by a drop of water, I mean literally a drop. This is why you don't typically make pasta in such small quantities. It's better to make bigger quantities and have more control over it, and then have leftovers than try to make a tiny amount. Oh. It's actually so small I can almost just do it like an exercise ball without having to push it into the board. Just kind of squeeze. It smells like pasta. That sort of doughy smell. I don't know that that's something people are familiar with. Fresh pasta smells like pasta. It smells kind of doughy, but a little bit different. I want to give it just literally that much water, which does not seem like it would be enough to affect any difference, but there were just some little tiny cracks that I was hoping, that I think are underhydrated and needed it. Oh, kneading pasta dough by hand is, of course, a lot of work as well, because it's a very stiff dough, and it gets stiffer as you work it, as the proteins in the flour and the proteins in the eggs, in this case one egg, but egg, as they bind up. But you need that strength because that's how you then roll them out into very, very thin strips to make pasta. It's not crumbly. It's tearing a little bit, but it's not crumbling. Okay. I suppose it doesn't matter that there's hardly anyone here yet. They're not missing anything, just me kneading a dough ball, which is something I've done before. You can't even see my face. Hi. Because I haven't having to lean over so far to I got some really nice vegetables today at the farmer's market, which I'm unfortunately not using in this recipe today. arms are getting tired. I should do this more often. It's a good workout. I get a delicious result at the end. And I need to practice. Okay. Is that going to be enough? It's got some creases, but when I roll it in the roller, those will force together. It stretches without tearing, except along the crease lines. It tears a little bit. Well, I guess we'll find out. Like I said, I need practice at pasta, and that includes knowing what the good and the bad signs are. Trying to pinch it together. It needs to rest, regardless. I'm trying to pinch the big crease at the bottom together, and it doesn't want to stay. So, dough ball. It needs... Why is it so warm in here? It's really warm in here for some reason. I know I've just been working out on this dough ball, so that's part of it. But it was warm before I started, and I don't know why, because it's been a rather cool day. What the heck happened to my plastic wrap? What the heck happened to my plastic wrap? The plastic wrap was all wound up on itself, not like usefully. The free end was all bunched up. Here it is, it's all bunched up. Okay. We wrap it in plastic, and we try to make sure all the air's out of it, which I failed to do, but and then we let it rest. Let's let it rest on the side over here for a while we do other things. Whew. That's a lot of work. Okay, part 2. I showed it off right away, but it was actually part 2. I just wanted to show it off. The lobster. This is not cooked. This is raw lobster, and the raviolis are not going to boil for long enough to ensure that our lobster is properly cooked. Which means we need to pre-cook it. And I want to get it out of its protective armor to do so. Okay. I've never actually opened up a raw lobster before. I probably should have just cut the whole thing in half. Was this guy cooked? I didn't think this was cooked, but it has a texture of being cooked. Question for the viewers. How do you tell if your lobster was cooked before you got it, if it wasn't labeled as such? Because if I was handed this as is, I would say, that lobster looks cooked. The flesh is white, the red part has gone red. But if I was handed this, I would say that lobster's not cooked because it's not red. We're going to cook it. We're gonna cook it as though it's confirmed not cooked, because I don't want to accidentally serve myself raw lobster. It also still has its some of its shleem in it, so I'm guessing it's just a particularly red. It was just a particularly red individual. It seems too floppy. So the color is throwing me off, but the texture is very raw. There's that thing. Oop, there's an ad break. There's a thing that you do for when you're making a lobster thermidor, which we're not making, where you you're not a thermidor. What's it called? The saddleback lobster, where you rest the lobster up on top of the shell and bake it. And normally I hate that. But I wanted to bake this lobster piece, and the shell would provide a safe base for it. Aluminum foil. Aluminum foil for easy cleanup. So I did split that all the way, as you would with a thermidor, because I was having a little bit of a hard time getting it out. But then you just kind of rest it up on top of its own shell. So yeah, we're going to rest this guy up on top of his own shell, like so. I'm going to wash my hands. Gotta say, for having been frozen as long as this has been frozen, it is in excellent shape. I didn't want to use it as just a whole lobster piece because I was afraid of what condition it would be in when I got it out of the freezer. I thought, we'll mince it up, because then if it's kind of lousy, it'll be okay. This is in great shape. In-shell shellfish, guys. In-shell shellfish freezes and stays really, really well. Let me see what the date was on that, because they put a sticker on it when I bought it. Cold water lobster tail. It was literally been in my freezer for a full year, and it's in basically perfect condition. It was literally September last year. I bought it, and I immediately froze it. So it has the advantage of I didn't wait for it to be almost due and then freeze it. I froze it with lots of time left on its use by date. We are going to need to wash. The oven is heating up, so while it is, we're going to need to wash the board, because I want to use this board for some vegetables, some of which won't be cooked enough for me to be comfortable if they were to sit in lobster juice. So the lobster is going to sit there. Oop, you can't even see it. I pushed it off to the side. The lobster is going to sit there until the oven is hot. The board is going to go over and dry off a little bit because it doesn't need to be used immediately. And we're going to, oops. We're going to clean off our countertop. I will get out other things while we're waiting for that, because we will need some other things. We will need 1 shallot. We will need some garlic. Uncertain how much, probably going to go with 2 cloves. So let's just break, these cloves are quite large, so let's just break one off right away and say 2 cloves. We will need Dactor. Hi, welcome in. Indeed, we will need the lion's mane mushroom. There it is. Locally grown. I got it at the farmer's market. It's a little bit dried out around the edges because I did not get it today at the farmer's market. And it's been in this paper bag. Sad. I mean, it's not the biggest in the world. It got a little dried out on this side. But that part looks good. I don't know. We will need parsley, ricotta. I'm sorry my lion's mane's not up to your standard. Nothing I can do about it at this point. Butter. A lot of butter. This reference recipe I've got wants me to use lemon zest. I'm hesitant to do so. It's going to get minced up anyways, so I mean that side definitely doesn't look great. I thought this side looked pretty good. It has been sitting in my fridge for some days now, so that's definitely a culprit in terms of it being a little bit sad. Because we're making a sauce, and I don't want to make a tomato-based sauce like they're saying here. So I'm kind of winging that. We're not following that. What is that brown? There's a brown drop, and it's solidified on my butter. Don't know what that is. Anyways, welcome in. You've missed the boring part when I was making a ball of pasta dough, which probably should be in the fridge while it rests. And then we dug the lobster tail out of its shell, propped it up there, and we're going to give that a short bake to get it cooked so that it can be minced up. This lobster tail has been, as I said, has been in my freezer since literally a year ago. And I'm frankly stunned at how good of condition it's in. I've always said that leaving shellfish in the shell makes it very, very freezer stable. But this is beyond my expectations of such freezer stability. I was doing this recipe, like I said, I was doing this recipe because I assumed that this was not going to be in presentation condition once I got it out of its shell. But dang, I could have just made that and done a fancy like a thermidor or some one of those nonsense recipes where it's just got a whole lobster tail in it. I love lobster. I don't have it very often because it is so very expensive. This one lobster tail was $6 last year, and I haven't seen them that low in ages. While we're waiting for the oven, I'm going to move the lobster tail, and we're going to start prepping other things. Get out our garlic tube. To peel our garlic. Oop, one didn't quite peel. So glad we found the garlic tube. I was very sad when I misplaced the garlic tube and thought it was gone forever, because it is such a useful thing. This is farmer's market garlic as well. And we will pulverize the garlic. In the traditional way. That is, I'm going to jam it through my microplane while I talk about how you always should prep your garlic ahead of when you want to use it in anything that is hot, because the heat will cause the enzymes that develop the rich garlicky flavor that we're all after to break down. So if you pulverize it, if you mince it or you crush it or you anything directly into heat, you lose out on a lot of that enzyme reaction. Whereas if you do it several minutes in advance, those flavors have a chance to develop, concentrate, and you get a lot more garlic bang for your buck in the finished result. And then we need to scrape the bottom of our microplane out. I don't know that the microplane is the best tool, but it sure does completely pulverize a garlic in no time at all. Our oven clicked, so I'm going to put the lobster tail in. Set us a timer, since we do not want to overcook that. That would be a very, very big shame. Okay. Because we don't need the scales anymore. We can put the scales away. Nothing I'm doing right now is very urgent. All the bits and pieces have to kind of rest and chill and which is good because I'm worked up a sweat needing that dough so hard. Ooh. What the hell is that? In the middle of the shallot, in between the lobes of the shallot. There's little green spots. But they're on the outside of the skin? How did those get in there? They're not on the actual eating part of the shallot. I've never seen the papery part of any garlic/onion thing go bad before. Weird. And not really a problem because it just peels right off, but weird. I don't know. The actual shallot's perfectly fine. Okay, I'm not being real careful with my shallot. I would never pass muster in a French kitchen. French kitchen. In a French kitchen for my onion skills. But, as my father would say, close enough for government work. Which, having worked in the government, I can tell you that is accurate. This last little bit. Okay, they're going to get cooked down anyways. So, no big deal if they're a little bit irregular. So, the original plan, the initial plan, was to mince up the lion's mane with the lobster in the filling. Because the lobster's going in the filling. But our lobster's looking nicer than I was expecting. So I'm almost tempted to put the lobster has to go in the filling, otherwise there aren't lobster ravioli. I want to make my title a liar. I'm gonna mince this guy up. I'm not mince him up. I'm gonna chop this guy up. Especially the bottom bit. So I guess we're gonna make a lion's mane mushroom sauce. I guess that's the plan. So the lion's mane is going to be the main event in the sauce, rather than incorporated into the raviolis themselves. although I don't want to cook it to complete death, so it's I can get those guys out. Plus, mincing it up saves the slight sad lookingness that you noted. Okay, it is still mushroom, so it's going to shrink up quite a bit. So I'm not worried about there being too much of it here. Let's not lose these little feelers. They are a major I don't know what I was about to say. I completely lost where that sentence was going. There's too many of them to just brush aside, and they're fully mushroomy, tasty parts of the mushroom. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty simple thing then, the sauce element. I can smell the lobster already. Oh, which makes sense because it's already been 7 minutes. Okay, okay. We need more garlic. In a separate thing. Is there a loose clove? There is not. We are going to add another garlic to the interior of our raviolis. This is why I use the garlic peeler. It's so much faster than trying to get this stuff off with your fingers. Okay. I'm going to add some garlic to the interior of our raviolis, but not too much because that will probably overpower if I do. Bookwoman, hello, welcome in. All the same things I said about the other garlic here. Garlic yourself ahead of when you need it. Although this part of the garlic is not going to be cooked a lot, so be gentle with it. It's going to be very pungent. Okay, we have just a 30 seconds left on the lobster tail, so I'm going to bring us over to the stove top. And we're going to retrieve the lobster tail. I'm just going to stop the timer. We're just going to kill the timer before it beeps. Yep. Turn the oven off. And pull our lobster tail. And there you go. Lobster tail. See, I should have trusted myself that it wasn't cooked, not be fooled by the color, because the shell is the part that you can always tell when it's cooked, because it turns that bright lobster red. Um, we just had an unusually red meat. So it's going to cool off a little bit before I can handle it, because I need to mince it up. I'm tempted. Oh man, I'm tempted to just eat it. But I'm committed. I've already made the pasta. So we will set him to the back corner. Let's see, the mushroom and the shallot. Mushroom, shallot, and the big garlic are for the sauce. The small garlic, the ricotta, the parsley. The parsley is going to be for both, isn't it? Salt, pepper. The butter is for the sauce. I'm not making lemon zest today. And then the sauce that they have in this reference recipe is a cream sauce. And I don't have any cream. But also I'm making mushroom sauce. So I guess I'm just going to completely ignore their sauce. We do need to start concocting our filling though. And this is where a reference recipe is super, super useful, because I know I would mess up quantities. I need a 1/4 cup of ricotta, which is 4 of these, approximately leveled. Lick my finger and figure out what to do with just the dregs of a ricotta. Couple grinds of black pepper, a pinch of salt, our small garlic, butter in the mix. Don't agree with that. Red pepper in the mix. I also don't agree with that. Why even have a reference recipe when I'm just going to say no? Well, it's because it's for the proportions of things that I am going to be using. So let's get out some parsley, because we're going to throw some parsley in there. Not too much parsley. Some parsley. So how's you guys' Saturday been going? I'm not usually here for dinner on Saturday. I wasn't planning. I was actually planning to be here a little earlier in the afternoon, like I said I would be last week. And then at noon, I was out shopping for this. No, I was not shopping for this, because none of the ingredients I bought were for this. This is all ingredients I already had on hand. I guess I was out shopping for nothing. I went to the farmer's market and I got this beautiful bundle of bok choy. Somehow late season summer zucchinis, plums, a mango, and some limes. It was a weird trip. Okay, this stuff needs to be really minced up. I don't want any big leaves. I want it all to be little. All little tiny minces, including these ones that escaped on the side. Okay. Parsley in the thing. We're going to keep the stems handy. We're going to use those as well. It wants to put melted butter in the mix, and I don't agree with that. Oh, brown butter in the mix. And cook the garlic in it. So make garlic butter. That makes sense. I'm actually going to do that. It's not too late. It's never too late. It's never too late to just go back. Where'd I put my skinny knife? There it is. It's never too late to just go back and do something different. Because our garlic is still in a coherent blob. I just need to get it out the bottom. It has a tiny bit of parsley attached to it, which is not an issue. Okay. And then, yeah, we're just going to cook that. Boop. He wants me to make brown butter. I guess I'll go ahead and make brown butter because I was thinking the garlic's going to be really pungent if I don't cook it out at all. So we're going to cook it out. Laundry day, taco night, using leftover barbecue. So barbecue tacos. That's interesting. We have an ad in progress. It snuck up on me, as it always does. Is our lobster cool enough to handle? It is. I will retrieve it over to the board. Is the shell cool enough to handle? It is. I will retrieve it to the... Oh man, I was going to say to the freezer bag of shells, but the freezer bag of shells is full of crayfish. I guess we're starting a new freezer bag of shells because the other one's full. And this is the real reason I split it earlier. It will be easier to nestle it down into our bag as a starter. So the other thing can accumulate on top of it. Okay. Okay. We definitely have to do something with our shellfish shells because they are full up. whack my garlic in my butter and brown the whole thing. I am on the wrong angle. You guys are looking at the countertop where nothing is happening, and I'm over here on the stove browning some garlic. Yeah, we're gonna have to be making a shellfish stock out of those guys pretty soon. We've definitely loaded up on them. Okay, so I'm using the small burner because I just don't want, because this pan is so small. This doesn't make any sense to use a large burner. So the view is not going to be great, but we're going to cook this. It's already very foamy. We're going to cook this until it starts to brown. The garlic is already in there, so it's either going to be browning because the butter browns or because the garlic browns. Either way, I'm going to stop once brown starts forming. Oh, it's actually starting to stick, because this is not a non-stick pan, it's just a steel pan. So I am going to go ahead and say stop now, because otherwise the garlic is going to stick to itself, form weird crusty bits, and not be able to incorporate. Okay, well, oh, and there are little brown bits in there as well, so it was also the right time on my original metric. I'm gonna take the time to scrape the bottom of the pan. Okay. Our toasted garlic and butter, I think it was the butter solids that actually started clumping. Our toasted garlic and butter are in the mix. I'm going to mix this up before I add the lobster. Because I want to make sure that that clump of garlic is broken up while I still have the chance to identify it before there are chunks of lobster in here. So I would say when you're browning your garlic butter, brown the butter and then add the garlic. Don't do it all at once, because the garlic will start to clump with itself in a really annoying way. Okay. Lobster tail. It just feels like a shame to be treating a lobster tail this way. It is beautifully cooked. As much as a purist I am for lobster, and in fact I'm going to snack on a little piece of it. As much as a purist I am for lobster, I have to admit, baking it is an easy way to prepare a lobster tail. I will have my eyes out for sales on whole raw lobster tails again this year. If I spot one, I will do what I did last year. Grab it and throw it in the freezer, because based on my experience with this one, they freeze astonishingly well. Okay. Mince it to death. Boy, I love lobster. Boy, I love lobster. Unpopular take, lobster is delicious. I know. Killed my career just there by saying that, but had to be said. Okay. Get this stuff all fully incorporated. There's not a ton going on in here, I have to say, which is exactly what I would do with a non-reference recipe for lobster. Don't do too much to it. Lobster itself is doing a lot of the work. You don't need to go crazy with it when you cook it. It's one of those ingredients that is better with less intervention. Set that guy aside. Hopefully, it tastes exactly how I imagine it tasting. Board away. Knife away. And parsley out of the way. Parsley. I move a lot of stuff, actually. We're gonna move the mushrooms and the shallots and the garlic and the lobster filling over to the stovetop, which is off. We're gonna put the butter out of the way. We're gonna clean this off because I'm gonna be rolling out my pasta now. And I would very much like there to not be bits in the pasta. Now I'm tempted both ways, and I guess I don't know which way is superior. I'm tempted to roll it out by hand, since I'm not trying to make noodles, I'm trying to make ravioli. But having it run through repeatedly helps develop the structure. Oh, I gotta get the thingy out too and adjust our camera. Since, as we learned last time, when properly hooked up, the camera cannot see the device. Ugh. Here's the device. I'm going to use the device. We need to adjust it there. No foot cam today. I've got shoes on. I also need to open the drawer because it is the only way to get this beastie in here. Yeah, well, I could get it super thin with the with a rolling pin if I had to. I'm confident that I would be able to do that. Okay. I'm going to dry off the tabletop as well before we start. But I think that running it through, because you sort of run it through and then you switch direction and you run it through, helps it develop that smooth consistency. Which if I was to do it by hand, I would roll it out and then have to fold it in half and roll it out again. And it's just easier here, but it only gets to be this wide if I do it with the pasta maker. So my raviolis can't be more than half that, which I suppose is the right size for a ravioli. Here's our little ball of dough. Which again, I need to practice making dough. Because it looks a little worse for wear after having been in the plastic wrap for not very long. Let's get out the pin just to get it started. And we're cutting it in half. Oop, haha. Set that to 1, please. Don't start on the thinnest setting. Yeah, I'm going to do this a few times, try to get it into more of a consistent I'm going to open this and tighten my, tighten my clamp. Get this guy into a nice sort of consistent, and it of course unfolds itself, turns into a big triangle immediately. Stop it. I got to get underneath to pull you through, and as soon as I do that, it wants to start to drift away. Okay, that's coming out better. Kinda. This way. No, I'm gonna do it, fold it over one more time to just force it there, like that, so it's more even. Okay. Wider or narrower. We are going to shoot for the absolute thinnest setting this time, because as this is a stuffed, the heck? I got grime. Oh, it's, huh. There must be some grime on the roller. It's because it's so wide. What if I fold the sides in? That was probably foolish. What was I saying? Oh, we're going for the thinnest setting for sure, because we need to double layer the finished result to make ravioli. So if it is not the thinnest we can get it, it'll be double thick on the other end when we turn them into raviolis. And I can just about see through it. So we are passing the old window test. Oh, and it sure is a grind to roll it through on setting number 6 here. Oh, and I stopped for a second, and there's a line in it. Whatever you do, don't stop rolling. Huh, where's that black streak coming from? What? Are you seeing this black, this thin black stripe? Oop. You seeing me bump the camera? Yes, this is it's actually 113 grams to 1 egg. So yeah. What is that? It must be something on the roller, but I cleaned this. And also, it wasn't... Weird. We're going to go ahead and make... Let's move the thing. I'm going to make half my raviolis. Whoa. Unscrew the roller and move it. Oh, what? Weird. This is too big to use, so split it in half. Are you seeing these weird? Oh, you can't because the camera is still up. So the roller left some dark streaks. That I don't like the looks of, but I'm not sure what to do about them. Just put away damp. I cleaned it and I left it out to dry, but I must have developed after it. Anyways, I'm just going to get rid of that one because that one's right on the edge. And the edges are a little bit ragged anyway, so we're not going to use them 100%. Lobster mixture. We're going to make this many, and then we're going to roll the other half out and make that many. How much do we put in each one of these guys? Recipe literally does not say. A tablespoon. Well, my tablespoon has been used. But it was just for cheese, so I guess we will use the table. That seems like too much. Doesn't it seem like too much? I don't know about you, but that feels like too much. I suppose we only get 4 raviolis out of that, which tracks with me having quartered the recipe, so sure. Let's see. We're supposed to. I don't have a mold, and we're just kind of doing this rustic, but I've got a glass of water right here. We're going to use. Okay. And then we put our top layer on and kind of we ensure that the air is out of it before we create a seal, otherwise they will not. Otherwise they will pop. I've never made ravioli before, so we are officially in the realm of I only know what I'm doing academically. Okay. They look a little rough, but I suppose that's what you get. place to put them. Wow, what the hell? Couldn't open the... Just getting out a plate to hold on to them. Ooh, they are trying to stick to the table underneath them. And that could be disastrous. If they tear, we're donezo. Didn't tear. I don't want to do a spatula at this stage because I would worry the spatula would catch. They're quite soft, so I would worry the spatula would catch and tear underneath them. So I am going to instead gently peel them away with my fingers. Well, that one's less stuck. The one on this end was quite stuck. Okay. Wow, it's really warm in here. What the heck? I'm all sweaty. And it's getting more so as I go on. I thought it was because I was kneading the dough, but here we are. Okay, we'll set the finished ones to the side. We do have some scrappy bits here that I guess I can just cook up as noodles. Let's hook it all up and do it again. Second verse, same as the first. You guys really need me to adjust the camera? Probably not. But we will anyways. Hey, there's my feet again. Okay. I didn't rewrap this one, so hopefully it has not dried out too badly. That didn't take super long, so I'm not mega worried about it, but I'm not worried about it. It doesn't want to get started. Whoa, it did dry. The biggest problem I have with this is the handle doesn't stay in place. It did dry out, didn't it? Wow. Wow, did it dry out fast. We need to work this dough back together a little bit. I left it out just long enough to finish the first batch, and it's already dry to the point where it's breaking in the widest setting on the roller, which is not a good sign for getting it into noodles. I could incorporate the scrappy bits. We're gonna have scrappy bits regardless. I was just gonna cook them up as noodles. But I guess I can just incorporate them at now. Wow, it is just, this is not what it's supposed to do, obviously. What the hell? The stupid handle. Just stay. Just stay in place. Why is that so hard? Huh. Any pasta experts have any idea about how to make it not do that? What number did I roll my ravioli out to? I rolled them to 6, which is the highest number that this goes to. Okay, we're gonna... I did not respect the dough. I did not respect the dough. Well, that is why it happened. Question remains, how do I fix it? That's still not good, but better. It doesn't help that the pasta always wants to lean over to my side every single time I do this. It can't just go in straight. It has to lean this way. And I'm trying to gently push it through straight. Okay, we're gonna damp it up. Just gonna mush it together with my hands for a little bit, like so. So that it doesn't have a active skin of water, just a sticky dampness on the outside. Okay. Well, glad we have someone who knows more than me about pasta on hand. Because clearly, I don't know what I'm doing. Although I've made pasta before. The issue is I didn't make a stuffed pasta, so it didn't take as long between... It didn't take as long between batches. Okay, well, it's wrapped up, and I got it a little schleem before it went in there. Since that needs to rest, our finished raviolis can come over there, as can our various odds and ends. I guess I'll start. I didn't want to do our sauce right away, though, because I wanted to toss the raviolis into the sauce after they boiled. We always have delays. We always have something. Never goes just smooth. I suppose that's half the fun, but it's also frustrating. Okay. Butter. Butter on medium-low. And a little bit of olive oil as well. By a little bit, I mean quite a bit. Quite a noticeable amount of olive oil as well. We'll get that melty and starting to combine, and then we will start the shallots. And I'm going to get a big pot of water in the back row, ready for the raviolis once they are ready. Since that'll take a bit of time to get up to temp anyways, we shall salt it heavily. This is fresh pasta, so you salt more than you think you need to. And then it's only in there for like a minute or something. And let's put that on medium-high so it gets hot but not like immediately at a full vigorous boil. This garlic can move. I'm not going to move the roller at this stage, so scissors to the rescue. If you'll remember back, we saved our parsley stems because I thought ahead to what else I was going to be making and realized that there would be a place to use them. Since we're all cluttered over there, I don't want to have to fight with getting the board set up, so I'm just going to cut them with the scissors. Cutting herbs with the scissors is a hack that actual chefs use in places all the time. They're of course better at it than me, but don't feel bad about using scissors to cut up an herb, cut up something that's small and hard to get a knife around. I do it with green onions all the time, especially when I'm using them just as a finishing garnish on something. I'll just run through them real quick with the scissors instead of worrying about getting them on a board and slicing them neatly. The scissor does all the work. So we're going to go I guess we're going to go a little slow over here. Since I don't want this to overcook itself while I'm working on the second batch of the raviolis. I think we're only going to get 8 raviolis out of this. Based on the amount of stuffing I've got, I may have overfilled the first 4. But we want that pat of butter to melt. Once that's melted, I'm just going to throw the shallots in and get them started. I want them to cook down quite a bit, but sort of gently. I'll do it now. Close enough. Okay, get them rolling. Real gentle like. I'm going to give them just a pinch of salt. But not too much. I don't want to oversalt the sauce. want to oversalt anything, really. I have a bad habit of oversalting stuff. I used my glass of hydrating water for sealing raviolis, and it got little bits in it. Okay. I do not have guests today. The reference recipe I'm using, by the way, the reference recipe is from Chisel and Fork today. We're not following it to the letter. We're using it as a general guide for like proportions and stuff. Their recipe serves or makes 36 raviolis. I have cut it down quite a lot. As we do not need that many raviolis. And that quantity was for 4 lobster tails, which is what I cut it down to, 1 lobster tail. Which is why my ball of dough was kind of small and difficult to hydrate correctly at the beginning, because it was literally just 100 grams of flour and an egg, which makes it very susceptible to small variations in hydration. Someone was here at the beginning watching me do it. I don't know who it was, but yeah. Cracking the dough in the roller was not the first time I had a hydration problem with the dough. When I was initially kneading it, it was very dry as well. And I ended up adding some water with my hand just to soften it up. And then I ended up adding some flour as well because it had gotten a little bit too sticky because it's such a small amount of dough. I would say making your own pasta, go for a larger pile because it is less susceptible to those small variations and easier to get a consistent result. I need to practice making my own. I know it's supposed to be low hydration, but it was so low hydration that it was like crumbling in my hands as I was trying to knead it. And that's too low. I know it's supposed to be low, but that was too low. But also I know that I need practice making pasta, and I should just do it more often. Well, I guess that's an opinion, because the recipes that I've read have you knead it right away. And then rest it. So academic disagreement in the realm of when to knead your pasta dough. The finished ones over here are, I suppose it doesn't matter if they dry out because I'm going to boil them. But I want to make sure they aren't going to stick to my, you know what I should do. You know what I should do, and I should have done this right away. What I should do, and I should have done this initially, is get out some wax paper. I did hydrate it with the well method. That's literally what I did. I made a pile on the table, put an egg in the middle, and pushed it all together. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I am saying that your description is contradicted by the reference recipe I currently have pulled up for this exact recipe that I'm making, which says knead it right away. And also the last time I made pasta. What I do know is that the hydration is affected by ambient humidity as well as methodology, and also that eggs are variable in size. So it does take practice, and it is more an art than a science. Anyways, I got some wax paper for my raviolis because they won't stick to that. And then I'll just set them aside. What does weighing my eggs do if the recipe does not say how much weight the eggs I need? Recipes never call for weights of eggs, they just say an egg. They don't even call for a standard size of egg, which is foolish because eggs are usually graded. So, how many grams of egg should I add to 100 grams of flour? If that is the measure. Turn the heat down on the shallots a little bit. Add my garlic to my shallots. Well, I'm happy to argue with you. I'm not mad. Don't take my arguing with it about being mad. I'm happy to argue. I enjoy a heated discussion. I expect to learn something. I did, after all, put in my tags backseating allowed for this exact type of thing. I'm gonna take the heat way down. Throw in the mushroom. Heat way down, throw in the mushroom, and get it started. And heat up on the boiling water, and I would say that now the dough has rested long enough for me to give it another try. What do you think? Dive in on it now, or give it more time? I'm going to put this lemon away, since we're not using the lemon today. We're going to get a white wine out as well. Do I have a white open? No. Okay. There's going to be a little bit of wine going into the mushroom mixture at some point. Well, with no input, I'm going to go ahead and check on our dough. It's ever so slightly tacky. But it seems pliable to me. So I guess I will give it a shot in the old roll-a-majig and see what it do. A little weird right at the end, but otherwise came out in one piece. Fold it in half and do that again. Fold it in half. Oh, you're right. It's coming off of the... I gotta figure out where that black streak is in the actual roller. It's not on the edge. Well, maybe it is. Well, our dough is definitely, I was going to say, our dough definitely has achieved its hydration, but then it just tore a little bit. So, do it again. Oh. No, see, it... See, it looked good to me, and now it's shredding up again. And I've got these little stupid little black streaks that I just don't like. I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, the mushrooms are definitely going to burn if I leave them there at this point. So that's coming off the heat completely. Okay, I don't know what else to do here besides trying to incorporate some more water into this thing. And the water does not need to be boiling because I'm not ready to put that in there. Well, if it's tearing in there, then it's going to tear on the rolling pin. That's also going to stick on the rolling pin. I'm getting increasingly frustrated. Because it needs to rest now, because I just worked it again. Shit. Okay. Okay, wetting the middle of it. Sticking it together. wrapping it up. See, at this point, I can't roll it out because the gluten is too tight and it won't roll. So it really needs to rest for another half hour because there's no way I'm going to get it rolled out. Ah, shit. This is why I had it resting while I was doing other things, because it needs the resting time. I may not be an expert in this, but I know that much. Because if it doesn't relax, because even just doing it for just a moment here, I could feel it like springing back like rubber. This is the reason it was the first thing I did. Shit. Okay, hot water off. Shit. If only I hadn't let the other half of the dough ball dry out while I was doing the first half, because it was a fine hydration when I got to it. Datder's comments aside, it was working perfectly fine. It was great. I just let the other half dry out. That was the issue. And now recovering it has been a mess. Okay. So, I guess I should make something else while I'm waiting. Since now we have several elements that are just waiting for that dough to be finished before they can move on at all. What if I make a side dish for it? I'm doing some research. We have an ad break. Oh, we have an ad break. I'm doing some research. I'm thinking about plums. Since I just picked up some plums. And I like plums. And they could be an interesting side, since I now have time to think about making side. I'm gonna leave this thing here and move our camera back. And that's just gonna have to live there while I do other things. Well, no. Why would I do that? Giving up when I make a mistake does not seem very jovial to me. We're going to make the most of it and use the now bonus time on something else. Oven's got some residual heat. We're going to turn the oven on. And we're going to cut this plum up. That's a tiny pit. Wow. And get the stem out. Okay. I think I'm going to make a side of roast plum. Which is the kind of side I could be making at the same time as something else. But, oh well, here we are. And I'm just kind of making these up. I don't want to make them sweet. We're not going for a sweet thing. I want to lean into the tanginess and have the sweetness of the plum be the only sweet element here. So this is going to be an experiment based on a thing that I'm aware exists, more than a recipe that I've ever done before. Okay. So, plums, tiny drizzle of olive oil. So my concept here is not dissimilar to combining chilies and mangoes, except I'm using plums because it's what I've got. And I like plums. So we've got plums, a little bit of oil, and I'm dusting them with some ancho chili powder. Turn them this way so that I can actually see the other face of the slice and get that powdered as well. Okay. And a little bit of salt. Salt makes everything better. I guess that's what I'm going to do with the plums. I don't know how long they should be in there. Oven's not quite hot anyways, so they need to sit. Whew. We're turning into an adventure that is taking longer than anticipated. I don't blame anyone if they don't stick around. There's going to be a distinct amount of downtime as I salvage. Okay, so yeah. I'm not sure. I don't have a plan for this. I never have a plan when things go off the rails like this. So I guess I'm going to tidy. I could do some dishes. Extra limes away. The bok choy and the mango. I have a mango. We could have done mango chili. But I did not reach for the mango. I reached for the plum. I'm gonna throw that away. It's developed a fuzz. I recently had to throw a bunch of things away because they had developed a fuzz. Plum can stay out. These zucchinis shouldn't. Zucchinis go slimy in the fridge, so I guess they're going to stay out, and I'm just going to have to use them soon. Well, I guess I'll reiterate my earlier point of I need to practice. I need to practice making pasta more, because clearly I'm in the realm of making some egregious mistakes. Our existing ones are still tender. They're not dried out. This is going to go in our now hot oven for an amount of time that I feel is correct. I'm going to keep the flour tower out just in case I need it. And our stuffing mixture, and I'm going to take this opportunity, since I am just kind of standing around. I'm going to move the raviolis so I don't get anything on them. Okay, I'm going to do some dishes, because there's literally time for it. I'm sorry, this is not the most interesting thing in the world at the moment. But it is what it is. Can't be helped. I'll feel much better myself in later this evening and in the morning when these dishes are all done. So especially that pan with the garlic butter, it got a little crusty. Oh. So, how's everyone else's evening going? You've had a pretty good view of how mine's going. It's had ups and downs. looking like a little bit of a late dinner for myself today on account of this setback. On the original schedule, I would be sitting down and eating it probably several minutes ago. But such is the way of cooking. And various steel bowls. Unfortunately, there's going to be a couple that can't be done yet. Because there's still stuff in them. So no matter what I do at this stage, there will be a few dishes outstanding at the end. I feel like we lost our pasta expert. Which is unfortunate because I feel like he had some good input in between the know-it-all-ofness. I should say they had some good input. We're gonna need that. We're gonna need that. We're not likely to need the board anymore, so I will take it. Oh, you've been looking at the board the whole time. I should have you guys looking at the back of my head. Where's my mouse? I should have you guys at least on the main screen, so when I turn around and look at you, you can see me with my halo of light. Since there's literally nothing happening over on the board while I'm over at the sink. Fortunately, there is no sink cam. The closest thing we have is me on the far side dropping my sponge. Okay. Well, I wasn't expecting to have the delay, and I wasn't expecting to do these extra dishes just now, but that's the adventure. Okay, the dishes are caught up. And I somehow have more people than when I started doing the dishes, which is amazing because I was just doing some dishes. So if you just arrived, here's what's going on right now. Half of my dough for my raviolis dried out just a bit too much and was tearing quite badly in the roller. We got some of them done, so the remaining dough is resting. I was using this opportunity to catch up on some dishes, just so they would be more done before we wrapped up today, since I had the time. So we're waiting on a piece of dough that's resting in the fridge, I believe. Should be in the fridge. Yeah, there it is. Better be in the fridge. So to that end, I put the mushroom sauce and the boiling water on hold and have concocted a side dish of ancho chili plums, which are at the moment roasting. And that's what's happening. So how long has that dough been in there? 20 minutes? I think it's been in there for 20 minutes. Between the plums, me waffling about, me dropping things on the floor, me doing some dishes, me coming over here to tell you about all these things. Let me clean off my rolling pin since I'm unlikely to need it. Need. And yeah, so that's where we are at. So if we pop over here, there's our lobster cheese mixture, and here are our 4 successful raviolis. They were actually quite successful. But now I need 4 more. The mushrooms and shallots are actually mostly already cooked, so we're going to bring them once the remaining raviolis are intact. We will bring our pot of water back up to a boil. We will bring our mushrooms and shallots back up to heat and add our white wine and a little bit of milk to make a creamy mushroom sauce. I think that's the plan. I think that's the plan. While it's actually not hot, I'm going to grind some pepper into our mushroom mixture. Okay. Exciting, I say, with a lack of excitement. So I don't want to pull the dough out early. I want to give it the full chance to rest up. Which means I have just a bit of time to kill. Boy, I wish I had like a I should get words on stream. Then I could at least like play words on stream for a downtime thing. It's a perfect downtime thing. It only takes a couple of minutes. And chat can play along. Don't know how to set that up, and I don't really want to mess with it while I'm live. I'm always afraid I'm going to break something when I start messing with things while I'm live. I'll add that to the list of things I need to work on, though, because that would be a great idea, because then right now, for this exact situation that we're currently in, where I'm just kind of running my mouth to kill time, we could instead be playing words on stream. I need to up, as Twitch says, up engagement, increase engagement. Oh, I found the black. Let's see if I can't get that out of there while I'm not doing nothing. Oh yeah. It's hard to see, but it's right on the very, very edge of the roller. But only on one side. It's weird that it's only on one side. But it comes off on the paper towel, so it just appears to be some grime. It's probably flour that got caught in the roller last time I used it. Okay. Well, this is only the second time I've successfully used the roller here. I'm not counting our very first outing where I had it awkwardly clamped on the right side of the countertop, because that was really very, very difficult to use. Last time we used it, when we clamped it where it is now, it worked great, and we actually made fettuccine out of it. Okay. Here's the plan. We have an ad coming up. I'm going to let the ad run, and I'm going to pull the dough out as soon as the ad is through. Because that will have been just about a half an hour, and that should be enough for our dough to have relaxed and hydrated. Because I added some water to it before I threw it in there. And also we just needed it to relax, because it was too rubbery. It was too bound up on itself. So I know it says the ad starts in 20 seconds, but then as soon as the 20 seconds are up, it's going to say ad starts soon. And I know you can't see that, but that's what it says on my side. And it's really annoying that they can't just tell me when it's going to start, but instead they give you like a block, and it's going to be somewhere in there. Thanks to which, 2, 1, ad starting soon. So I'm actually going to watch it and see how many seconds it is between when it says the ad, when the countdown runs, and when the actual timer for the ad roll goes. So this is going to be me just running a little experiment with the Twitch panel that you guys can't even see. This is one of those. This feels like one of my early shows, one of my like way at the beginning when I first started. God, nobody watched me make cheese. I made cheese, like I made my own cheese live on stream. Right at the beginning. There's the ad break. Okay, so it's actually a minute and a half. Or no, is it? It's more than a minute and a half. It was a minute 40 between when the countdown started and when the actual ad timer started. So yeah, I've gotten better over time doing this, of not having big stretches of downtime, of planning out a side dish to work at the same time, of sort of weaving things in and out. Way back at the beginning, one of my first things I made was I made cheese. I made my own cheese from milk right here in this kitchen, right over there on that stove. And it took 5.5 hours, and at least 3 of those hours involved me watching a stupid white pot not properly set, because it was a total experiment and I kept having to fuss with it to get it to work. I got cheese out of it. It became cheese, but it was a terrible project. It was a terrible show. And I haven't had things with just a great deal of downtime since those early days. Like when I made the cheesecakes and just had to stand around for an hour while they slowly baked. And the ad timer is over. So it has been a half an hour. Our dough has a gentle give to it when I poke it with my finger. I left it in kind of its folded shape. It's nice and smooth. If this doesn't work, I'm going to be real mad, and then I'm going to give up. That's what's going to happen. We're going to flour the roller. Move the lobster mixture. And get started rolling, I guess. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it is still trying to break a bit. Put it in this way. Come on, stick together, you bastard. Okay, so I'm postage folding it, or I'm tri-folding it, and I'm putting it in the opposite direction to try to get it to really stick to itself. Ugh. And then the end inevitably pulls open. Shoot. Ah, and I still black crap coming out of the edge. What the hell? Gonna have to go in there with a bottle brush. Really scrub that out. Okay, one more go. Please don't tear. Please don't tear. That's gonna tear. It's already tearing. Oh, fuck. Pardon my language. Well, I'm gonna go for it. We're just gonna go for it and we're gonna have a bad time. That's what's gonna happen. Well, maybe not. Maybe just doing it gently is all I needed to do. Because it seems to be working a little bit better. We're going to have some ragged edges, but as long as the middle is okay, we can turn it into raviolis and just trim away the ragged edges. Okay, okay. I think it's good enough. I'm going to reiterate that I need practice. I'm going to remind myself that I have plums in the oven that need to come out. I think that they are done. Isosceles! It's like making yummy paper, except this has been a headache and a half. We just had a half hour of downtime while I waited for my dough to re-rest because I let half of it dry out. And this is the half that we let dry out. And it's got a hole right there, which means I can't make a ravioli right there. But good to see you. Welcome in. It's entirely my own fault as well, because we made 4 successful raviolis out of the first half of the dough. I just didn't wrap up the second half of the dough while I was doing that, and it dried out. I'm going to learn a lesson from myself. As we click to 5, I'm going to cut this in half early. And as you can tell by looking at it, we got a little ragged on the edges on account of the dough being a little bit too dry. But I believe that is a successful sheet of dough that now no longer needs to be rolled out anymore. It is ready for ravioliing. Ravoiling. Put this back to a 5. Roll this part out, and that hole is just going to get worse. But I have a plan. But I have a plan. So I expected to have been eating by now. So we're already off script. And I don't know why. Shoot, I don't know why this roller insists on pulling to the right, but it does. Okay, this is going to be the top sheet, and that's going to be the bottom sheet. We're going to take this thing off. It's rolled out. We got it hydrated enough to roll out. I'm going to remove the roller. We're going to quickly construct 4 more raviolis. Because I'm trying to get done now. Now I'm just a little bit like, okay, this has been fun. Ready to stop now. Let's swivel our camera up so you can see the main sheet. We're going to use this one as our base sheet. We're going to pick it up, put down some wax paper so it doesn't stick to the table. We're going to take our filling mixture and make 4 little guys out of it. As expected, the final one is going to be a little bit underfilled. It's hard to make these come out perfectly with things that are in variable sizes, such as a lobster tail. Okay. I licked my finger, and I can tell you, despite all the difficulties, it's delicious. I'm using this guy to kind of shape our thing so I can pull away the excess into that one and then shape that one. No, they're actually just about the same size if I use the scooper and then make a mess. They're actually just about the same size. That one looks extra small, not just because it's on the wide part of the board, but because I think it's a little bit less filled. So, okay. Take our water. Wet in between everybody. Wet on the end. Wet along the sides. Wetting, I don't know, I mentioned this the first time. Wetting the dough, wetting a dough like this makes it sticky so that it will stick to other dough. So that when we take the sheet and put it on top, the top sheet will stick. here's my trick that I'm going to hope is going to avoid that that hole. I'm going to cut these out individually. In exactly the way you're not supposed to. Oh, I got a balloon in that one. Although that is not the fault of doing it this way, that's the fault of me just not squeezing the air out. Always squeeze the air out when you make something like this so it doesn't kersplode when it comes to the cooking. I might have just torn this one. Please don't have torn, please don't have torn. I don't think it tore. It felt like it for a sec. And then we're going to cut around that little hole. Move this guy here, and as they say, voila. And then we trim them out, and then I'm going to take these scrappy bits, and they're just going to be noodles. Some ultra rustic tagliatelle. Okay. And that was my crude solution for ensuring that they didn't come out gnarly a second time. Water, come back to a boil. We need you. Okay. I don't know if anyone's still stuck with me. So thank you all for sticking with me. Anyone who's still here, or anyone who's just arrived. You've missed the train wreck that we just went through that we've now corrected. We have a successful 8 raviolis and a pile of pasta scraps. I'm concerned there might be a tear at the bottom of this one. So we're going to get all these guys off the wax paper gently and take a peek. Ooh, that one is the roughest one. But it's not torn at the bottom, so we are intact. We got them. Okay. I think what had happened was when it felt like it was tearing, I stretched it slightly, so it's even thinner than the other ones. But here are the first 4. They pretty much all look the same, so we managed that. Top guys are a little bit darker because they've started drying out because it's been a half an hour or more since I made them. So they'll be the first ones to go in the boiling water. All the remainder of our project is going to be over here. We have our roast plums. We're putting on the heat back on our mushroom shallot mix because that has to get turned into a sauce. Oh boy, we're back in the saddle. We're actually cooking. Things are going well. We still have a chance for disasters, but they will be tasty disasters instead of just frustrating time sinks. This needs some white wine and some heat. And the plums, which are still quite hot, need to come away and get off of that pan. What plate am I going to use? I probably should use the black flat plate for this, right? It's raining again. It's been raining all day. I think we're going to use the black flat plate for this because we're going to have white sauce with our white raviolis, and the sauce, in my head at least, will be thick, not runny. Because it's going to be chunky, and then we're going to add milk to it. It needs to heat up. Okay. Our big pot of water is coming to a boil. Wookie, you like to use a mason jar? Ooh, yeah, actually, that would have been a good idea to make circles. I just went with my bench scraper. And hacked them out, but well, the ones in the back row definitely have dried out a bit. They are a little on the edges, but we're going to boil them. I mean, we're going to boil them. Don't forget, dry pasta is rock hard, and we boil that and it comes out nice and tender. This is just slightly dried out, because it's still it's still supple, it's still tender. It's just like right on the tips, you can feel it being like a little bit crusty. They'll be fine. They'll be having made pasta I made gnocchi. Remember, I made gnocchi and I those sat out for an hour and then I froze them and they were fine. I'm not concerned that they're too dried out. They're a little dried out, but again, we're boiling them. So once that water, which has already been salted, was salted the first time we brought it to a boil, and then we had to quickly backpedal. Once that comes to a boil, I'm going to put the 4 slightly drier ones in, and then we're going to put the other 4 in. And we're going to sniff check my milk because it's been there a while, but it's fine. We've passed the date on this milk, but not egregiously, and it smells fine. So Or, ooh, we could use crema to thicken this up and make it really creamy. Because I've still got some crema. I've been putting that in lots of stuff because I want to use this jar up because it... Oh, it actually has a lot longer on it than standard milk. But since it's been opened several times, I was a little bit worried about it. I'm going to... it smells... That one smells like it might have gone off, even though it's got a much longer date on it. Our water is at a vigorous boil, so we're going to turn it down so it's at a slightly gentler boil. We can actually bring the camera up slightly, since that's a tall pot. You can see my magic pot behind it there. The magic pot lives there now because I don't have any other place to put it. So, if they're made improperly, they may burst in the boil. But when they are cooked, they should float to the top and stay there. And that's our signal that they're done. Ooh. Actually, the ones that have dried out a little bit are easier to handle than the fresher ones. Okay, well, as they say, it's in God's hands now. I'm adding some milk to our sauce. It's a very chunky sauce. Oh, everybody's floating too, which I should have expected because I literally just said they were going to do that. Let's give them a stir around to make sure they aren't just sticking together. And let's get them out of there. Oh, there's an ad approaching again. Of course there is. I spent a million years waffling around. Okay. Doing this directly onto the plate is a mistake because it's developing a lake. Okay, guys. De-lakeify, please. And, as mentioned, and they kind of clumped together because I just kind of put them in a pile, so they're a little bit awkward. I'm just going to throw all the remaining dough scraps in there willy-nilly. See what they do. They're not going to make it on our finished plate, for sure. Doing that right over the steaming water. Okay, I think our sauce has appropriately thickened, so I will take the heat off. let's come over to here, where we have once again, despite my efforts, developed a lake on the plate. I thought the spider would do a better job of removing the extra water, but I guess not. I want the ones at the top to be proper rectangles, which I can correct while they're still pliable and screaming hot. Okay. We definitely had a little bit of a leak somewhere because there's a small amount of ricotta clinging to the outsides of them. Turn that off. Grab our scooper. Oh, the ad snuck up on me. As always, the ad snuck up on me. Oh, and that's no wonder everything's so hot. The oven's still on. If we kind of push everybody slightly to the side, I can get a little semicircle of plums over there. My quote-unquote sauce has turned into more of a topping, I think. As it's more chunk than liquid. It smells amazing though. Like I said, we've reached the stage when mistakes are going to be tasty mistakes, not frustrating mistakes. Everyone is back from the ad. We are going to finish plating. I was going to stop plating for the ad break, and then I realized, no. Well, the plum was not a planned element at all, but there it is. But there she blows. That needs some fresh green brightness. I did it! Some fresh parsley to green up the top. Okay. Yeah. Would I do it differently next time? 100%. I definitely made some mistakes, and it took me a full hour longer than I was planning. Let me go take photos of this, come back, taste the dang thing, so that I can leave. Because I'm ready to be not in the kitchen anymore. I will say that it has, unfortunately, the sauce looks a bit like I opened a can of tuna and dumped it on the top. Since I'm taking photos, I'm going to split one of the raviolis and try to get a photo of the interior. Can't say that that's super impressive, but okie doke. Let's taste this dang thing. I'm excited to eat the dang thing. And since I just split one open, we're going to start by tasting this ravioli right here. Okay, well, it was a lot of work. We messed up halfway through. We concocted a whole new thing on the side of the plate. The finished product looks a bit like I just opened a can of tuna and sort of sprinkled it out. It tastes goddamn fantastic. It tastes so good. The filling of the ravioli is very rich, like very rich. I'm almost glad I made them so big, just because there's more pasta to balance out the richness. This is a decadent flavor. Mm. The mushrooms have retained quite a bit of their texture. So they have a slight, almost vegetative resistance when you bite them. Mm. Mm. I honestly think it would have been good to have minced those up and put them in the ravioli and made twice as many. But I wouldn't want to make twice as many. What it does do, because the lobster inside the raviolis is pretty minced up, and the texture of lion's mane is actually quite similar to seafood, it gives you that seafood bite, even though you're not getting that bite from the raviolis themselves. It's rich and decadent, and it's worth the amount of effort that it should have taken. It's probably worth the amount of effort I had to give it because I screwed it up. Would shiitake work? For this, you would get a very, very different result. Lion's mane is often described as being a very seafood-like mushroom. I don't think it tastes specifically like any seafood, but it has that texture and it sort of has that profile, of flavor profile, where it kind of rests in the realm of shrimp, lobster-y things. We have more of it here. Honestly, I think the lion's mane could have taken the place of the lobster in this recipe pretty easily, pretty seamlessly. We could have stuck it inside instead of the lobster and made these lion's mane, and the results would have been fairly similar. Let's taste these experimental last second, I don't know what I'm doing, roast plums. Oh, that's super good. Wow. Wow, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. It's still holding its shape quite nicely, but it's almost melt in your mouth tender. It's almost like a prune, but the flavor is more like a prune than a fresh plum, but it retains quite a lot of its tart sharpness from a raw plum, but it's also very sweet. I think we caramelized the sugars in the plum. It's actually a very good complement to this because this is so fatty and rich. Would lion's mane work in a seafood foil? I've never tried that. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. It's a pretty robust thing. It often gets like cut into a slice and grilled like a steak because it's got a pretty robust like structure. It'll hold up to some punishment. So I don't think it would disintegrate if you tried to do it in a boil. But I've never heard of that being done, and I've never tried it myself. So maybe. If you can find them, they're pretty easy to work with, and they're mighty tasty. Like I said, they don't taste exactly like seafood. You would never, if you didn't know it was a mushroom and you were served it, you would probably ask, what kind of seafood is this? But you wouldn't be able to put your finger on, oh, it's this. In this setting, if it was a big slice, then you'd be able to tell, you'd be able to see the shape of it. Well, I've got a good plate of food. I don't know that it looks the best, but it definitely is in the top for flavor. In terms of flavor, we've hit a good thing, and I'm glad I've got the plum on. I'm going to remember the whole thing, but I knew this was going to be tasty because this is full of butter and cheese and lobster and mushrooms and all delicious things. This was just, I've got some time to kill. Let's throw something together. I'm going to remember this one because that was very easy and pretty tasty. It was almost no effort, and dang, did it come together pretty well. But I'm going to remember that one. This one I'm going to remember as well, but I didn't really learn anything aside from practicing making pasta. I didn't learn anything from the flavors that I put into the ravioli. Our experiment with the ravioli was all about technique. But I said I was going to rush out of here because I'm hungry, and I haven't done that. So we're going to rush out of here because I'm hungry. Let's drop us off at someone. Saturday evening is not a normal time for me. And ain't nobody on. Let's go to Hecky. I don't know how long Hecky's going to be on, but we're going to go to Hecky. Hecky's not cooking. Hecky's playing Starfield. God, I'm so eager, I've already started undoing my apron. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with me through this roller coaster of emotions that we went through today. It was a bit of a mess, and the result was delicious, which I suppose is all I can ask for. And I actually had enough time to do most of the dishes, so there's very little cleanup for me today as well. So that's a plus. I'll have a relaxed tail end to this for a change. I'm not gonna wait for the countdown this time. I'm just gonna say I'll be back next week. Next week is the next week God. Next week's gonna be a bit of a weird thing because I'm gonna miss half of the discount gift sub period. So and now we're up to the point where it's gonna do the countdown anyway. So I may as well just wait. So yeah, I will be back next week. I'm gonna try to stream as many days as possible next week. Take advantage of that stream subathon. Bye!